The One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit EU Qualifier number 8. We just saw a really intense 5-game series between Steph and Chimmy, where Steph took the crown of that semifinal. He'll move on to the final, so face the winner of this next matchup, which is going to be Sami versus Privet or Privet.
Who knows? I'm gonna say Privet
Okay.
because I'm an
You get a confirmation on that.
I'm an uncultured American. Yeah, if we get a confirmation, I can change how I say it. But kind of reminds me of Savits and Savages.
When people used to call him savages, those were the days, man.
Frickin' Artosis.
I was like, how do you get savages from that?
There's like one night we were like talking to Artosis, and Artosis was like, "Oh no, I know how to say it. It's Savits, but I'm still gonna call them Savages."
Oh, man.
And we have, looks like the exact same lineup from both players. And this is a lineup we're not too unfamiliar with. It's something we've seen. Saw it last match. Chimmy brought it. And, you know, the meta, it is still kind of diverse. But it looks like in the finals of this tournament, everyone that won kind of had the same mindset going in.
Yeah. Very true. And, I mean, that's 3 out of the 4 lineups are exactly the same, and 1 out of the 4 is almost the same, but with a hunter instead of a warlock.
Yep, and that was kind of the difference last match. I mean, the hunter was the one that ended up winning. The warlock got a win as well, so it was actually the warrior deck that fell for Chimmy at the very end.
Yeah.
Both players have druid. Both players have warrior. Everybody in the top 4 has warrior and druid, so we're seeing a lot of that as far as the EU. And stick around though after we have the North American finals, and I believe we have a little bit more class diversity in that one.
Yeah, I checked out the decks a little bit earlier on the bracket, a little bit more diverse, but I mean it's
this reminds me. TJ, did you play much World of Warcraft?
Oh yes,
Did you play Arena or like watch competitive Arena?
both.
There was I think it was like the end of Burning Crusade. This was the only 3v3 comp like people were running. It was always WLD.
Yep.
Yep, it was a warlock, a warrior, and a druid always. That was the best comp.
Yeah, there was
Blizzard
still the
favoritism.
There was still the RMP thrown in. But those guys, you watch those matches, and it was like the rogue mage priest had to try so hard to find wins.
Well, at least it looks like a different warlock deck from Privet. Probably Malagos.
Maybe it's Privet.
Privet?
I don't know.
Privet.
We're still trying to get confirmation.
Privet.
Privet.
We're just gonna have some fun with this name for this match.
Maybe it's a silent R. It's pivot.
Ooh, maybe it's a silent
T.
Maybe it's a silent
Prive.
T. It's Rivet.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's definitely a different warlock deck. Looks to be probably Malagos. I mean, it's got the dragon synergies. We saw Soulfire. It's probably Malagos.
It's kind of weird, though, because most players have sort of realized Blackwing Technician just isn't quite as good as Imp Gang Boss in that 3 slot. So
Yeah.
even with the dragon synergy, people realize that, I think Imp Gang Boss is still better for that 3 slot. But he's putting in those technicians.
Yeah, they both kind of have their own merits. I mean, the Imp Gang Boss definitely weaker against decks like Patron Warrior. They can let them spawn off a bunch of stuff. It's a little weaker to Deathbite. Whereas Blackwing Technician, of course, if you don't get the buff, it's definitively weaker. But if you do get that buff, it definitely has some merit. It's like Sami thinking Inner Rage.
Yeah. So this matchup basically comes down to who draws into enough of their good stuff first.
Yeah, It's a very much combo-oriented matchup.
Yeah. Unlike Handlock, the Malagos Warlock doesn't have many ways to block damage. Usually one, maybe two defenders of Argus, and then a couple heal bots to heal up. But usually healing is not what you need against this matchup. Are the only things that the Malagos Warlock has to keep themselves in the game. So basically, they have to just pressure early, try to deny as much draw as possible, and draw into their damage before the patron manages to find a win. So,
Yeah.
sort of a race, an arms race.
Yeah, and Privet's going to have all of his dragon synergies unlocked for the rest of this game. Malagos is a card that you're not playing until basically you've either won the game or it's kind of a last chance desperation. Go Malagos, go. So going to unlock that Blackwing Technician, unlock the Corruptor, all those good synergies forever. And Sami, I was very surprised he enraged. I thought he would trade, but he got a little greedy for that 3 damage. It ended up costing him a little bit. He got Mortal Coiled, and now both of his Armor Smiths are gone. And
Yeah.
one of the problems with playing Armor Smiths so early as Patron is it denies your Battle Rage for quite a while. He has 9 armor, and it's only going to get more with that shield block and the hero power.
Yeah. This turn's a little awkward. He wants to be able to mortar coil down this Gnomish Inventor, but then he doesn't play anything, so...
Yeah, I think
opts to just go
you're
for the
okay.
Azure Drake.
You're okay just Azure Draking, I think.
Yeah.
I would say if anything's awkward, it's probably the hand from the Warrior.
Yeah.
Doesn't have much going, whereas the Warlock hand looks a lot nicer. He can actually just go ahead and go for that Emperor on curve if he wants. It'll hit a Mortal Coil, a Dark Bomb, and a Malagos, which is not too bad. Not the greatest thing ever, but he might want to get this Mortal Coil off this turn.
Yeah. I think getting the... If he Mortal Coils and he's playing second Azure Drake, or he's using Blackwing Corruptor as 3 damage to face, he could chip off most of the armor, but...
Well, armor is not too relevant, so... Maybe if it was against a Control Warrior, you could go for that kind of play. I would like that much more, but... I feel like the options here, Mortal Coil, Azure Drake, or Emperor.
Black Knight. Wow.
Very interesting tech card. Could come in big. We've seen so much Druid. So, in a matchup other than this, maybe a really nice tech card. In this matchup, probably not so much.
Deathbite.
Yeah, probably going to have to see a weapon overwrite here for Sami.
The thing is, he's going to have to probably use these cards not quite as effectively as he would have hoped, because he's probably going to have to use these cards to just activate Battle Rage, a bigger Battle Rage.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't have any more cycle, and if he tries to get greedy with the Deathbite charge, or if he tries to get greedy with his creatures here, then he's just never going to draw into enough stuff, so... Next turn, he's probably going to have to use that Battle Rage to try and draw as many cards as possible.
Yeah, and it's not going to be too many. This is, if you kind of look at it like this, I mean, Sami threw out 2 Armor Smiths. Both of them accomplished just about nothing and died. That's a net loss of 2 cards. Meanwhile, Privet's been Mortal Coiling. He's been Life Tapping. Just look at all the card advantage he has. Azure Drakes replaced themselves. He's got a full hand against 5 from Sami, so
yeah,
in a very luxurious spot where he can basically choose to do what he wants.
Luxurious,
indeed.
Yeah, he's thinking whether or not he wants to throw the Emperor Thorsan into the Deathbite charge here. He's thinking is 2 combo pieces enough here? Is Malagos plus Dark Bomb enough to warrant giving up my Emperor Thorsan? Not necessarily for free, but throwing it into a Deathbite charge where he knows it's going to die. Or is he thinking maybe I should just play something else that's not going to go down as easily, or that is going to go down easily, but I'm not too worried about it just dying. And Anti-Killbot is just that card, so it seems like Privet's not that happy with that play, but I mean, I think it's better than... He really wants to get more out of that Emperor.
Yeah, that's definitely what he's going for by this play. You even saw he thought about the Abusive Sergeant. Of course, he can't really life tap because his hand is too full at this point. So he was thinking about just throwing out Abusive Sergeant just to free up his hand. Of course, that card's mostly in the deck to provide more accessibility for your big game hunter. Or big game hunters if you run two.
Alright, well, Sami does pick up Emperor Thor's hand, but he's really not hitting combo pieces. He has to hold on to Warsong Commander, so he only gets 2 cards out of Battle Rage. And still, his hand is just looking a little bit weak. The executes aren't as good in this matchup as they are against like Handlock, for example. And having both of them in your hand, just you'd much rather those be other cards. Patriots.
Yeah, definitely. Execute, not really the MVP. I mean, against Handlock, that'd be fantastic, but it even looks like Privet's just going to get that Black Knight value while he can.
Yes.
I might have liked... I mean, I see what he wanted to do here. He just wants to get Black Knight value. He knows it's really never going to find another target, but I feel like you're okay just never playing that. He could have gone for Blackwing Corruptor, Abusive Sergeant, and then he could also squeeze in a life tap at the end.
Yeah. Blackwing Corruptor, like you said, though, could be used for more damage later on, where Black Knight cannot.
And I guess this is it. It's, like you said, not a good Emperor, and it's dead to board at best.
At best.
At worst, it's getting Siphoned, it's getting Blackwing Corrupted, who knows?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tough choice here. He can Blackwing Corruptor and then trade in the Abusive Sergeant and then Defender Vargas.
You do want to be a little protective of your Defender Vargas. When you're at 30, your opponent only has 5 and 9 mana. You're not that worried you die. Defender Vargas lets you push a little bit, but you also want to be very, very wary of saving it for when you are in danger of dying to a combo.
Yeah.
Looks like he will go for that, though. Just wants the more tempo-oriented play, push as much damage as possible, put out a threatening board. There's also a very good case to be made for if you pressure a Patron Warrior enough, they have to make such bad plays that you'll just win anyway.
Yeah. Also means that since he's pressuring and putting out threats like this, more likely to get out removal, which makes it easier for him to play Emperor Thor's hand, or not necessarily easier, but makes you feel better about it. It might get 2 points of value.
I feel like if an Execute comes out here for Sami, Privet can just win the game by playing Malagos, just playing it.
Very true.
That's a strategy. I talked a lot with Dog about it at DreamHack. We were both playing Malagos Warlock and made top 4 of the event. And I was telling him in the mirror match and then Patron, we kind of decided one of the best ways to play the game, if you're not in a great situation, if you've seen a lot of removal, you can just play out Malagos. And it can't really get punished. So think about it right now. If he were to just slam Malagos on the table, maybe trade into an Acolyte, go face with the Defender Vargas and say go, what does Sami do? He has nothing. He has absolutely nothing. You'd get off the Dark Bomb, you'd get off the Hellfire with the +5 spell power each, and it'd just be super easy win. With the Soulfire top deck, I might like Privet to go for Emperor, but it looks like he's very content to play this game super safely. Just super slowly, trade off everything, deny all the cards you can, no reason to rush. And it's still a very threatening board.
I don't know, though. It feels like you sort of need to put the Patron on a clock here, because all of a sudden he develops Deathbite this turn, and, well, I guess if he develops Deathbite
you're a little afraid. But, yeah, he actually, Privet has a lot of damage with the Soulfire top deck. He has 10 out of hand, and he has 15 on board. So there's definitely going to need to be a slam here for Sami. Looks like he identifies that, though, and he's going to go for it. But is that enough? Still, I think he's going to be 1 short with the armor up. He only has 16, and he's at 17, so... Yeah, he played it very slightly too defensively, but now, I mean, I feel like you just Emperor, you probably go face twice, and you say, okay, don't have a 28 damage combo, please. That's really all you can do at this point.
Is there any card that Sami can draw that would give him a 28 damage combo? I don't think so.
I don't think so. There are 5 cards, maybe even 4 cards that would give him 28 damage, but he doesn't have those cards.
It'd have to be like Warsong, Frothing.
Yeah, you definitely need to start with double frothing. Would Inner-Rage be any good? So you play Warsong, Frothing, Patron, you Inner-Rage a Patron, you go face, you get 14 from the Patrons, and then 4 from the Despite, so you'd need 10 from the Whirlwind effect, and you'd only get 7.
Well, there's 3 creatures on the opposing side of the board.
Yeah, that plus 4 of your own, that's only 7, so he'd be 3 off with an Inner-Rage top deck here, it looks like. I don't know if Unstable Ghoul is good enough. It definitely isn't, but... like we talked about, maybe with double frothing this would be enough, but it does not have that.
Nope.
And he's going to have a hard enough time just clearing the board. Let alone, I mean, Malagos is just going to come down next turn and destroy him, but... looks like here we go.
There's always that slight moment of panic when you start to see the combos being played out, but I mean, there's really, I'm sure Privet factored in like the maximum he could do, and he says, well, if you have it, you have it, but he obviously didn't have it, and so it looks like that is just going to be it.
Yep. Sami will stay alive on board, and maybe if it was only Hellfire to come out from Pivot here, he'd have a chance, but obviously it's a much bigger combo than that.
Yep, and Privet managed to draw into his stuff before Sami drew into his stuff, and I mean, just a little bit rough for Sami early on. He tried to make a push there at the end, but it was just a little bit too late, and so Privet is going to take game number 1.
Yeah. Really like to see the Malagos out of him. I feel like seeing the metagame that's kind of lined up in this top 4, it's definitely one of the better Warlock variants to have. Boast a better matchup against Warrior. Against Patron, it's probably slightly worse than Handlock, but it's better than Handlock against Hunter, better than Handlock against Druid. So hopefully he can do pretty well for himself. He's got some interesting tech in there. He's got the Abusive Sergeant, got the Black Knight. So a lot of stuff to fight against Druids if he moves forward into the finals.
Yeah. And we're going to jump into game number 2 here. Privet's going to throw out the Druid, and Sami's going to throw out his own Warlock. Now, it could be Handlock, still could be Malagos Warlock for him as well. And the anti-Killbot doesn't really tell us much out either.
Yep.
Yeah, with the Ancient Watcher, that is going to be traditional Handlock. And there's Molten as well.
Yep, so we will see this matchup once again. Handlock versus Druid. We can't seem to avoid it, TJ.
Nope, not at all. And I mean, both of these decks right now are strong on the format. They both have reasonable matchups against Patron, reasonable enough to where you can consistently bring them. So basically, this matchup comes down to who can ramp the hardest, I suppose. Warlocks are ramping their cards into their threats like Twilight Drake, and
well, Sami ramped about as hard as you can ramp.
Yeah.
He's got literally all 4 of the 4 threats. Into an Emperor, into a Sylvanas. I mean, the only thing he's missing is you see he has no spells. But spells are only really relevant when you're behind. And he's going to be pretty ahead unless Privet can pick up the perfect answers like Keeper. He's going to need a big game hunter in this game.
At the very least.
Yeah. Hopefully 2 in his case.
Very unlikely.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 in his deck. Malagos Warlock is one of those decks that really hard counters Handlock. So maybe he set his lineup up with the idea of beating handlock. It is one of those strategies I do like now that we're seeing more and more handlock going into open tournament finals. It's one of the few decks that you can set out to actually counter. You can't really get 3 decks to reliably beat Druid, and you can't count on everyone always having Druid. Warrior, you don't really have 3 reliable decks that beat it. You just kind of have to go with this strategy a lot of people are going with of like, well, these decks are okay, like you said, against it.
Mm-hmm. And he did have the abusive Sergeant as well, so that usually indicates double BGH also, at least in the Warlock deck. And there's Ogre Brood. So Privet did mention that his favorite card was Ogre Brute. I did not expect to see it in any of his decks, even after he mentioned it was his favorite card. But
and he just loves Ogre Brute. Yeah.
In all of its glory.
Yep. Ogre Brute.
Yes, that is what it is.
That's a card in his hand. He put that in his deck.
So what do you think the Ogre Brute is for, Chalky?
You know, TJ, I think it's just a 4/4. A 4/4 that is a little confused about its job in life.
Alright. Well, BGH doesn't line up, and Sami's going to get out a really nice Emperor here, hitting... Look at that! Both Moltons, a Twilight Drake, a Mountain Giant, a Sylvanas.
We talked about... He didn't have spells, but the other thing he's missing is taunts. And suddenly Privet's like literally an innervate away from winning.
Literally?
Literally. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to just see Coin Ancient of Lore digging for an innervate, keep both shades concealed, and just try to win next turn.
Yeah.
Because
it does get heavily punished by Shadow Flame, but...
Yeah, of course. But
calculated risks.
He's so... Not behind. I mean, he is behind. Your opponent just got a... What is that, a 9-card Emperor off? He's got 2 threats that you can't deal with.
And there it goes.
It's like he's going for a defensive play, and I just have to feel like when you play defensively against someone that got a 9-card Emperor, you can't be feeling too good. I do like the fact he saved the second shade, though.
Yeah.
And he gets in the damage, which might not be that great for him, to be honest. He is still setting up a lot of damage, but now he doesn't have that Savage Roar to add to it. But Sami's got some really cheap giants in that hand.
You could play Mountain, Molten, and Ancient Watcher.
Yeah. He
and
could...
that basically...
Doesn't set up lethal.
Oh, if he draws into an Howl or a Dark Bomb. Or,
yep. But he doesn't have those.
Anything. He doesn't. That's true.
Well, not anything, TJ. A Wisp wouldn't give him lethal.
No, that wouldn't. He might also play Mountain and Sylvanas. No, because then it would just... No, he could. But I feel like putting the most pressure might be better in the end.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely going with some sort of offensive pressure play. Looks like he's a little afraid, though. Oh,
nah.
No. Nah.
Turn 7, he used the coin, he used the Savage Roar.
Yeah. You're pretty okay.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I feel like Sami, the only thing he really needs to lock this game up is a taunter. I suppose Privet's going to... Now he has to Hero Power or he has to Force of Nature. And Force of Nature doesn't do much. So I feel like it's going to be Hero Power. And then how do you really move that into a winning plan?
This Ogre Brute is going to have to do some work.
Yeah. I mean, it can hit through Taunt occasionally.
I wonder how many games he's won because Ogre Brute hit the face through a taunt.
Yeah. At least one. For him, for that to be his favorite card, at least one, TJ. And that's a taunter, so... Can't help but feel Something's gonna lock him out of this game. Yeah, he had all the options in the world. He could go Molten and taunt up the Giants. He could taunt up these. I mean, this is just game over. There's nothing here.
All right. Well, Privet goes ahead and concedes. That's going to tie up the series 1-1. And I mean, you talked about it. We've seen a lot of this matchup over the past couple weeks, couple days.
Mm-hmm. Seen it go both ways. Yeah, it's one of the long-standing matchups in Hearthstone history. Decks haven't changed too much over the course of time. Of course, they've added some fun new toys like Emperor Thaurissan, Antique Healbot for handlock. But both players' Warlocks out of the way, and now we have a Druid Warrior mirror left. But we're going to start out with a non-mirror match as Privet decides to just throw out Druid again.
Patron versus Druid. Finds the Wild Growth and the Paladin Shredder.
Ooh, which is and the Harrison.
And the Harrison. What a hand.
Yep. Pretty sick stuff.
Wow. Double Wild Growth, I'm always on the fence about.
Yep.
It allows you to ramp up, but it also reduces the chance that you actually have good cards in your hand. Besides, wow. So you can Wild Growth into Wild Growth into Emperor Thaurissan without even having to use the coin.
Well, he also does just want to keep developing things. He could use the coin.
Yeah.
That lets him get out a piloted Shredder as well. And I feel like I like that a little more.
This is why I'm on the fence about double Wild Growth. Usually the second Wild Growth, you don't even have time to use it.
That's why you're on the fence.
One is enough.
One is enough.
Not second Wild Growth in the deck. I'm talking about
just
second
playing
Wild Growth.
Okay.
Oh, I'm talking about, like, second Wild Growth in opening hand.
Yeah. It's
like,
usually,
if I had 2 Wild Growths in my hand,
you'd pitch one.
I'd pitch one. Unless I had, like, I was playing against a slow deck and I had Ancient of Lore.
I don't think I'm good enough at Druid to ever have 2 in my opening hand. Like, the Hearthstone gods just look down and they're like, 1 or 2. Your pick. That's never happened to me. I'm not that good.
Such a shame.
Well, I feel like, we're going to see pretty decent play from Sami here. I mean, Druid's ramping, but with double Acolyte, especially when you get so many multiple draws, the first one got 2, this one gets 3. Sami, it's almost an opposite of game 1, where he's going to have enough card draw to really deal with whatever comes out of Privet. So Privet's going to have to... He can't really play for a card advantage game. I mean, you just look at Sami drawing even more cards with Slam. He's going to have to play for a rushdown game, because if you play board control, eventually the patron does unfair things, they make patrons, and you lose. So it's almost like Privet has the burden of being the aggressor in this matchup, and Sami can just kind of sit back knowing that as the game goes longer, he's more and more favored to win.
Mm-hmm. Well, Innervate probably wasn't the pickup that he was hoping for, because
it's an awkward hand.
Does not have good targets here.
I mean, you can still just play it, I guess. It is hard to deal with for Sami. In fact, it might even be impossible if he clears off this 2/2.
Wow. Oh, no.
Ancient Watcher off of Shredder. This happened to my teammate Blackout the other day in the round of 8 of this tournament. He said it's happening in chat, so not a great sign.
Yep.
And an execute off the top means Sami can deal with Emperor, so pretty fortunate for him.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's already drawn through more than half of his deck.
He's drawn so much.
6. Yeah, he drew
he has drawn through over half of his deck. He's drawn 7 more than Privet.
Wow. So he drew 1 or 2 from each of the slams. Then he drew 2 from his first Acolyte.
And
3 from his second Acolyte. Wow.
So he's going to miss a +1 buff on his frothing, but it's not technically an error, because maybe he was digging for something off of the slam. He did go ahead and say, that was an error, but it could be a little relevant. Privet did pick up the Keeper of the Grove to make that Ancient Watcher into something. Now it's an attacking unit. We're going all the way back to like 2013 when Watcher Druid was the craze.
Yeah. It was actually strong. That was the anti-aggro deck of its time.
It was. You coin out the Watcher, they're done. They're donezo, TJ.
Hunters would just concede.
You can't
Like,
beat it.
oh, how do you beat Ancient Watcher? A 4/5 for 2? He's just gonna Sun Fury it.
And then silence it if he wants to kill me.
Yep.
Man, Druid's so unfair. Well, Deathbite comes up for Sami, and I mean, we talked about Sami drew a bunch of cards, but that's 10 damage on board for Privet. He's going to get the Harrison off. If he picks up into combo pieces, which Ogre Brute is not,
it's a combo piece.
Just want to remind you guys, Ogre Brute, not part of the Druid combo. That's not the one we're talking about.
I wonder if he runs 2. The consistency at which he's drawing it is pretty high.
2 out of 2 games. I mean, it does kind of add to the consistency of hitting a 3-drop, of which he did not hit one this game.
Yeah.
But I feel like Harrison's definitely coming down. You kind of have to think about where to go from there. Do you want to kill off Armorsmith? Do you want to swipe? Do you want to develop Ogre Brute? These are the questions that keep you up at night.
The hard-hitting questions. The second he runs 2.
There they are. That is, again, not the combo. But
look at this. How do you deal
with
this? 2 Ogre Brutes? You can't even taunt. It doesn't even protect yourself.
This guy's deck is crazy. Privet's just like standard stuff. I mean, Sami instantly equipped that Deathbite, but I don't know if that was what he needed to do. I guess he's going to go for the Whirlwind, but is he just dead?
I think he's dead.
I guess the Ogre Brutes could miss. This is definitely a weakness of theirs. So if you swipe the Armorsmith, he's still at 17, and then you only have 15.
Oh no!
The Ogre Brutes need to hit! Oh no!
Oh, God!
The Ogre Brutes do not come through.
Ogre Brute, you betrayed me.
Ogre Brute, why? Why, Ogre Brute?
Out of all the cards to be your favorite.
He's just an Ogre Brute kind of guy, man, okay?
Oh, wouldn't be surprised if we just see a Mogor the Ogre pop out of his hand.
I hope it's in his 3rd deck, too.
I mean, a Druid of the Claw in charge form with a Mogor the Ogre on the board is pretty much an Ogre Brute.
Fair enough. It's an Ogre Brute with charge. So you leave up the Ogre Brutes, right? Because those could miss. And if you're Privet, you don't swipe him immediately. You go for the Ogre kill. Ogre kill. Do it. Do it. Go for the 50-50. If he doesn't, I'm going to be really upset. Ogre kill. Do it! Yes! Ogre kill!
He got him!
Ogre no stupid. Dude, no hesitation. I like this guy.
Okay, so I mean, we always say this, and probably sound like a broken record, but these guys with these decks, they managed to make it all the way through the Open. Like, these are the same decks that they used to play in the EU Open yesterday. He did have Ogre Brutes in his Druid deck against every single opponent that he beat,
and he beat them all with Ogre Brute.
And with the Conquest format, yes, you have to win with all of your decks.
He has not lost a series yet with Ogre Brute in this tournament. It was a card. I remember when it came out, people were kind of like, yeah, it's not too bad, like in Druid and stuff. But people were like, okay, Shade of Naxxramas is better, though. Privet's just playing both.
Yeah.
2 copies of each.
I think I told you I played against a rogue in the ladder the other day. He was playing a an ogre rogue deck. It was like a
Yeah.
Wailing Souls rogue deck.
Yeah, it's called Roger. Come on.
Is it?
Yeah, have you never played Roger?
Nope, never played Roger before. The ogre ninjas did work, man. He played like double ogre ninja and then just Wailing Souls and then smacked me for 12. I lost to it.
Yeah.
It was
You
like a
can't
rank
deal with
4.
that.
It was the first time I ever played against a deck. I don't remember the guy's name, but it was really creative. He had Ancient Watcher also. He had Spellbreakers.
Ooh, he was all in on it.
Ogre Brutes. He did have the Ogre Brutes. The
I
turn
played
3
it.
Ogre Brute into turn 4 Spellbreaker? What do you do?
You lose.
I did. I lost.
I mean, I've played some Roger on stream in my time. It was a fun time.
I can imagine.
I don't think we'll see any ogres in this game though, TJ.
You know what? Nothing surprises me anymore, Chucky.
If Privet
This-
top decks an ogre, I'm done. Just done.
I'm out of here.
I'm out. Yeah. You got me.
Peace.
Hearthstone's innovation has hit its peak today. August 13th, 2015.
Right before the big reveal for TGT, the reveal event tomorrow for TGT.
Mm-hmm. I hope there's more ogres in there.
It's the pinnacle of Hearthstone innovation. I'm sure Privet hopes there's more ogres as well.
Yeah. Maybe another 3-drop ogre to replace Shade of Naxxramas. Get the theme down a bit more.
Yeah. Well, patron versus patron, this matchup comes down to, well, if one player has patrons and the other doesn't, to play with patrons,
Player with patrons is in a nice spot.
But we've seen, we saw the other day, if both players have patrons, it's usually the player who goes second.
Well, yeah, it can be
because they can
interesting.
answer the patrons and make their patrons fall in a way that they want.
But if one player has 2 patrons and the other has 1, it's the player who goes third.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets crazy.
And if both players have 2 patrons,
Whoa!
then it's the player who goes fourth. And if
Whoa.
one player has 2 patrons and the other player has 2 patrons and one has 2 patrons and an ogre brute,
And suddenly things get crazy if you have a Frothing Berserker combo, which both players do this game. However, they're both at really high life totals, so...
yeah.
Like, this would be a situation where if Privet had Grim Patrons who'd interrage them, go face with that Deathbite, clear everything, make 4 patrons, and that's game. We do see, though, a really interesting tech card in Privet's deck. He has Brawl.
Yeah.
Which it isn't a card you usually play around in the mirror. Even if they have it, you usually can't respect it. You just gotta go. And that could end up really costing Sami if he walks into that Brawl this game.
Yeah. Privet finds his patron, also has Emperor, so judging by the hands, it feels like he's in a little bit of a better spot right now.
Yeah, he has a lot of the cards you want to see. Sami has a little bit of Cycle. He has an Execute, which isn't bad at dealing with things. But it's still going to be a long way back for him this game.
Yeah.
Got the Deathbite. It's a start.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the best cards he could have drawn in the situation.
And
Probably
now
the best.
he has double Frothing, so...
If he picks up a Emperor, then all of a sudden he's looking at
This can
close to
be
lethal.
this can be that crazy reverse OTK where your opponent's so far ahead with patrons, but they develop too many, and they just buff up your Frothings even more, and you kill them.
It's such an interesting matchup because there's so many lines of victory for the players.
Yep, but Privet's going to start that clock pretty soon here if he goes for patron.
Yeah. And then, so he's going to do patrons this turn, and then next turn he can use Emperor Thorsan. So basically just threat after threat after threat.
Yep. And we'll see. I mean, right now Sami doesn't have a way to answer them all. He can execute one, he can weapon one, and that's it. He could charge out a Frothing, technically, kill off a third one, and that would stop the reproduction entirely, but it would cost you so much then you're kind of giving up on that double frothing win condition.
It would
But you
cost you
do,
a frothing, and more than likely it would cost you a Warsaw Commander too, because he's probably not going to leave that up on the board.
well, yeah, you'd have to at least leave up the 5/1. So your Warsong would die. Looks like
Ouch.
that's going to be the play. It will take off the first wave of patrons for Privet, but still not a great scenario. I mean, you're giving up 3 cards to answer 3 cards.
Yep. And he keeps his Frothing Berserker alive, which is okay, but at the same time, complete initiative is going to be over to Privet, and he knows that there is only 4 cards left remaining in Sammy's hand. He's used a lot of those combo pieces. Sami really needs to pick up on patrons of his own. A Battle Rage. What is he planning on doing if he's in a Battle Rage here?
Just drawing some cards, man.
I guess so. Making that bigger Emperor, but then what's his plan after that? He can Cruel Taskmaster and then throw in, I guess.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
That's a lot of pieces.
Yep. And he's quite ahead on the card advantage battle. And he knows one Warsong's out of the way, so it's getting to the point where now he doesn't have to be afraid of double frothing. There's still the patrons there for Sami, but he doesn't have as many pieces to make patrons, and you have Brawl to protect against those. So, I mean, Privet's got this almost, like, not locked up, but he's got answers for days for whatever Sami has.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the line that he took there. Using both the Cruel Taskmaster and the Inner Rage. I guess he guarantees 2 draws from the Acolyte, but he could have done that as well by just using a Whirlwind. I guess the Whirlwind's going to be better off later, since he's used 1 Patron, and Whirlwind is better with Frothing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, now I think we will see that Emperor, probably. It's going to die, but I don't think that's a huge deal.
13 cards left for Privet, 14 cards left for Sami. So despite Sami's hand looking quite a bit emptier, both these guys have still drawn through about the same amount of cards.
Yeah, it feels like Privet's just been able to use his cards more efficiently. Sami's been having to answer more inefficiently.
Yep. So Privet does have a lot of damage, but he needs to draw into 1 more piece, maybe a second Frothing Berserker here, or a Patron, in order to... Wow, that's not the 2 draws that he wanted to see. Both Fireworks is pretty much useless at this stage.
Yeah, what do you even do? Like, such a bad spot here for Sami.
I don't know. It's looking grim. I don't know if there's much he can do. Wow. So if he smacks into the Emperor Thorsan and then armors up, he can equip the Fire War Axe after that, I suppose, and then armor up, attack in, equip, armor up. But then he's sitting at 32 health. He leaves a Cruel Taskmaster on the board. All of a sudden, Privet has 7 cards, 6 of which were reduced. And Sami just has a couple combo pieces and an axe.
Yeah, and those combo pieces, when your opponent's at 34, and that's your second Frothing, your second Warsong, it feels like you're just giving up the game if you use those without doing a whole lot.
Harrison Jones. He's been through both Despites, right? Yeah.
I believe so. Even if he hasn't, I mean, 2 cards, kill a War Axe, you're pushing forward.
Greetings.
Yeah, I mean, don't think that's very happy greetings from Sami.
Nope. This game's pretty much locked out. Sami gonna try and cycle here with the Gnomish Inventor, but the more stuff that he puts on board, the bigger these combos are gonna be. And with 11 damage on board, I think that's just gonna be... I think he's a little off.
Yeah, he's really gonna have to make sure it is lethal if he ever goes for something like that. Feel like you can probably play safe. You've seen one frothing. You've seen both dust bites. You know it's not going to come out like that or anything. He has 3 whirlwind effects, and he'd be doing them on... It'd be on varying amounts of targets, because the Cruel Taskmaster would die off.
He is lethal.
You think so?
So, because he can charge the second War Song also.
Yeah.
So that gives an extra 2 damage. So I think he has, if I count it correctly, 29 with 2 whirlwinds.
It's an extra 3 damage, 5 damage because of the. It's War Song hits face for 2, and then it gives you an extra bunch from the whirlwind effects.
I counted 29.
Yeah, this has to be it. I mean, after kind of looking at it again.
Yeah. Did he get it off though? What's the slam floating there for? What are you using that for?
Just extra damage, man. Why not?
I guess so.
You slam that all on the floor. There you go. Get an extra bunch of damage, and yeah, that's gonna be well over lethal. Only 5 over, so it's actually sort of close. But good spot by Privet, and he will move on to the finals with some pretty nice patron play.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and face Steph in the final. Sami will move down to the 3rd place match to face off against Chimmy.
Indeed. They'll be competing for some GEICO points, a little bit of money. I'll have to check up, see if they are in decent enough position in GEICO points. If not, I mean, it is basically just kind of a fight for money and a little bit of like pride on the line. You never really want to go into a broadcasted event and be the last place player.
Yeah, and looking at the GEICO points list, there's a lot of people with a lot of points.
There is. It's going to be...
It's actually pretty intimidating.
It's going to be a tough get for them. Yep.
Yeah. All right, well, we are going to broadcast the 3rd place match next. But during the break, guys, head over to geico.onog.gg. You can enter in to win an official TSM PC, get a GEICO quote, sign up for some GEICO giveaway newsletters, and it really helps GEICO see that you guys are showing your support for them getting into esports. Helps everybody out, helps us all out. So head on over there during the break. Unfortunately, this is the last qualifier, so there are no more that you can sign up. But the feature tournament is this weekend, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And then, of course, the grand finals at PAX in a few weeks. We're getting to the conclusion of the qualifiers. So we're going to go to a quick 2-minute break, though. So don't go anywhere, guys. More Summit Circuit action right after this.